Hello again, guys. It is I, Freeze700. We are back with some Warhammer Fantasy lore. This time, what the fuck is the Spider God? Yeah, I'm a little arachnophobic, so I kind of don't like spiders. But let's talk about it anyways. So, the Spider God, also known as his other name, the Feaster of Beyond. Ooh, very spacey, very sci-fi-ish, very scary. Yeah, fuck that. Now, the Spider God is, in fact, a deity of the orcs, the greenskins. And his most typical patrons are the forest goblins. The forest goblins, of course, worship him and actually pride him more than Gork and Mork. And that's mostly due to fear, which is what I would say would be one of the commanding tenets of this religion, is that the spider cult pretty much fears the hell out of spiders. So they're pretty much forced to worship the damn thing. Now, that in of itself is pretty interesting to me. Also, they make a lot of sacrifices and a lot of rituals to other spiders. So all this blood and all this sacrifice is really what created the deity. The deity didn't just, exist because spiders existed. No, the deity more or less came to life because goblins kept sacrificing to it. They kept doing rituals for it. And, of course, more importantly, every culture around the world has some arachnophobia. That fear can definitely generate a being like this, a being of spiders. And of course, the goblins are the ones who receive all the benefits because they're the only ones that are worshiping the fucking thing. Everyone else just says, ew, like purge it with fire. There's no way in hell I'm going to get near that fucking thing. So, of course, with the goblins, the question becomes, how did the goblins come about worshipping the spiders? Well, it's a real interesting dilemma of might makes right. So in Greenskin society, might makes right in the most basic sense. I beat your ass, therefore you're going to follow me. Well, the issue with the goblins is that way back when in the forest goblin lore, I was talking about this, after the goblins settled in the forest of Drakewald and some of the other forests that had spiders, but Drakewald's the most important one, there were so many spiders that they were able to pretty much cull the forest goblin populations. But the issue is that forest goblins are very repetitive because they're goblins. And they're not very bright. So in other words, they're basically going to be a constant source of nutrition to the spiders, to the little spidelings. Now, the forest goblins, after, having their populations culled, their numbers pretty much, they rise slowly. Over time, they would slowly rise to outnumber the spiders enough to pretty much tame them and beat their ass. But in the early days, they were definitely struggling to survive. Like, whole camps would get wiped out by spiders. This would be from an arachnarok and really hungry, and this would also be from the more horse-sized spiders just saying, ooh, look, there's a pack of goblins. I could take on, maybe 5 of them. So with this, after, years and centuries of this happening, the goblins started to revere the spiders as a sort of gods. Because after all, the arachnarok is fucking impossible for their tiny bodies to ever topple down. No matter how many goblins they send, that thing will always stand because his hide is impenetrable to their spears and sticks. And also, more importantly, they don't have the nice machineries of warfare like catapults. They don't have iron weapons. So after getting their asses beat, they started to worship it instead because they were like, fuck it. Can't beat them, join them. So that's what they did. They started giving blood sacrifices. And they started to kidnap smaller broods of spiders and tame them. So that way when they grew to maturity, they could actually be ridden to battle. This was actually the start of the spider cult. What made it even more crazy was the fact that the spider shamans, the forest goblin shamans, they would dress themselves in a lot of cobwebs. And they would have spiders that were highly venomous pretty much reside on their body. And at any point in time when they feel like communing to the spider god, they would just pop one of the venomous ones in their mouth and let it bite its tongue for several hours. But the poison would cause them to convulse and see visions, and maybe possibly die. These visions, though, would show them the spider god's realm, and the spider god's realm is very, very terrible. Imagine, if you would, a dimension of webs, and there is spider demons all within the webs. There are just a million eyes staring at you from all the darkness and webbings. And then you got the Feaster of Beyond, the biggest of them all, the one with the most massive eyes and the most numerous. That would be what it would be like to be in the Spider God's realm. Now, in Age of Sigmar, there's another Spider God, but it's not certain if this is the same Spider God, so this is why it's kind of an interesting lore dilemma. I assume it's probably the same, but the story behind it is very different. The story behind it is that a spider bit Gork or Mork on the foot and absorbed their godly powers, and now, boom, now he's a deity of the orcs. I don't like that. I like the original story better, where fear pretty much created the Spider God. And the whole name, Feaster of Beyond, is just, that is just terrifying to think of. It's like Stephen King's It movie, the fucking spider. Fuck that. So, the interesting things about the god is that the god can bless the goblins to have extra arms, to actually be venomous themselves, to get multiple eyes. There's a lot of traits that the goblins can have, but only the forest goblins. And even then, it's very rare. So if you ever get born and you have like an extra arm, or you have just a natural capability to sweat out webbings, or natural ability to have fangs that just, for whatever reason, drip out poison, then you are blessed by the Spider God. And that's something that I find very fascinating about the Spider God, is that he actually takes up blessing the goblins, despite the fact that the goblins may worship him, but his whole existence is catered to the spiders themselves. So it's very fascinating, the idea that the spiders don't receive blessings. Instead, the only person who receives blessings is the Gooblies. So it's really fascinating, but besides that, this has been Freezer 700. I'm out. There's not really much to say other than this is how the Spider God was created. This is what his dimension is like if you ever got into it. And it's really, really disgusting if you're arachnophobic like me. So, yeah, fuck this topic. I'm going to go out. Peace. There will be a lore topic later today, the Unification Wars of Terra, and that will be a live stream, so be sure to be there today.